Well, raise your hand if you are a mom that feels overwhelmed by all the things you need to do, being the mom manager of your house. Yes. The piles of papers that come your way and the things that you're told you need to do and the places you need to be. If you're like me, I felt like I was dropping more balls than I was juggling. So what I thought of was, well, when I was a nursing instructor, I required my students to have a plan of care for every single patient, where they set goals and achieve goals for the wellness of their patient. So my thought was, I'll just take that same concept and bring it home. So literally for decades, I used this tool that I am now saying is the family care plan. I literally put a notebook together, and every 6 months, I sat down with the Lord and inquired of him, because the scripture says, if you lack for wisdom, just ask, he'll help you. And one of the verses that I absolutely love is Isaiah 32:8, and I'm gonna change it a little bit. A noble mom makes plans, and by her plans, a noble mom stands. And so what I did, by the way, this is my PowerPoint for the day. So pretend this is a page out of my notebook. And the examples underneath here are just things that I might have had in the notebook over the years. So don't focus on those so much as what the main pillars that we decided were critical attributes that our family needed to have in order to grow healthy and to go strong. And so we decided in order for them to grow in wisdom and stature and favor with man and God, these were the main things we wanted to focus on and then set goals in them. And if anything competed against them, then that was just a ball that if somebody tried to hand it to me, I could hand right back and say, no, thank you. So each child has a portion of the graph. So you just would put your children's name across it. That's what I would do. And I would suggest put your name down as well, Mom, because you need some care as well. And I put my husband's. So the first one was body. So on a Saturday morning, I would get my cup of coffee and my cookie and just ask the Lord questions and ask questions of myself. And I would ask the Lord, so in the body department, is there something that you're noticing, Lord, that I've maybe missed? And just visualizing each child from head to toe, from lice to foot fungus. Is there an appointment that needs to be made, maybe with their eyes or their teeth or the asthma doctor? But then even asking the Lord, is there something that I need to pay attention to, something you're highlighting? Maybe they're at the beginning of an eating disorder of something and that needs to be addressed. The next section I think is the most important, so I may spend a little bit of time here, and that is the soul and spirit section, where we basically would ask the Lord, how can I connect with each child in a way that they feel loved, and then connect each child with God so they feel the love of God. Now, we moved around so much that one of the things we learned was finding a church was critical and core to this, because that's the community around which we could grow in the love of God and understand ourselves. And as a mom, there were 2 books in particular that I recommend when I share this with other moms that I wish I had purchased earlier. One is the Love Languages book by Gary Chapman, so that each child would know that they were loved and I wouldn't miss their love language. I could actually communicate on a level that they felt loved. The other one is a book by Stormy O'Martin called Praying for Your Children. It just transformed the way that I prayed and the way that I viewed things with my children in terms of the soul and spirit section. And then we decided to do, we would do our Bible study every morning at the kitchen table, and it looked different all the time. The third section is the school department. And I would actually put the word social/school with this, because school is a very social thing. The question I would ask the Lord there is there something I'm missing? Is there something I'm not seeing with each child? Maybe somebody is struggling in math and needs a tutor. Possibly it's time for somebody to have speech therapy. But just inquire of the Lord what needs attention and what's most important. And if you don't have time to make the parent-teacher meetings, what I did and what helped me is I just simply sent an email to every single teacher to let them know I'm on their team and I appreciated them helping raise my child during the day, and to please let me know how they felt my children were doing academically and socially. So that's the school department. Now, if you have small children, you may just mostly focus on these 2 categories where you're focusing heavily on the body part. They're just learning to put on their shoes and socks and get their clothes on. But as they grow in time, this next section starts to it can get a mind of its own, and that is the hobbies and sports. So the middle school years in particular are wonderful years to ask the Lord, what gifts and talents have you put in my children? What are they good at? What are they drawn to? Arts, literature, sports? And sort of like let them sample as many things as possible. Find the free events in your area that you can kind of try different things on, so to speak. But that every gift and every talent that they receive is to not just glorify themselves, but to always point to the Father. And then finally, the last section is the others and family and home section. The whole purpose of this was to ask the question of how can we serve one another in love? Starting at home. Instead of just taking care of me, myself, and I, every time a child would have a birthday or they would go up a grade, we would give them a new freedom, but then we also gave them a new responsibility that served the whole family. Whether that's learning to clean toilets or learning to make a meal for the family. We learned to serve one another within our home with the hopes that someday they would go out in the community and find ways to serve in the community. So every 6 months, usually at the beginning of the semester, I would sit down with all the piles of the papers that I had, sit down with my notebook and proceed to write all these things out. At the end of this, you may feel a little overwhelmed, like I would, but then I would remind myself, this is a long-term planning tool. These are things that need to be accomplished over 6 months, not tomorrow. But what I would do is then I would take, and you could just take and click one thing a day that needs to be done. And over the course of 6 months, by just choosing one thing a day, all these things get accomplished. And I actually was able to do that throughout the entire childhood of all 3 of my children. So literally 6 months by 6 months, step by step. They eventually were at the point by the time they were seniors, they were doing their own laundry, they were balancing their own checkbook, they were responsible for their own cars and tires and everything. And we have launched them out into adulthood. So this is a tool that worked well for me, and hopefully it's one that you can use, so that instead of the schedule controlling you, you're in control of the schedule. Thank you so much.